Welcome into the Bear Squad Show. I'm Joe George, and simply here, Caleb Williams needs to be better for the Bears.
11 penalties for 79 yards. The Bears continue to get in their own way.
And I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears. This Bears defense couldn't live on die off of turnovers forever, and we get none against the Ravens with a bunch of injuries in the secondary. This is the result.
Bear down, Chicago. It's the Bears Squad. Everything Chicago Bears, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Windy City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From Soldier Field to the next great chapter, the Bears Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Bear Squad Show here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. I am Joe George alongside Adam Sager and Lauren Cox, and the Bears win streak is over. They lose to the Baltimore Ravens, a game in which there's a lot to discuss in this one because it was not a pretty game from the offense, from not scoring touchdowns early and getting field goals to Caleb Williams interceptions, not converting there in the end. Lots of bad things, honestly, in this game. The defense was mostly good. I mean, they were good enough, I would say, even though it was, no Lamar Jackson in this one. But guys, a disappointing day, I think, for Caleb Williams, for the offense. Lauren, we'll start with you. Just where did it go wrong in the worst way possible for this team, and just how you view the offense as this game was playing out?
Yeah, I do think the offense is probably the biggest concern and storyline here, just given how bad the Ravens defense has been this season. And I know they played better right before the break, or right before the bye week. They got a little healthier after the bye week. Like, I'm sure this Ravens defense moving forward is not the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL anymore, but it's still not a strong group that's firing on all cylinders. And it felt to me like, yes, Caleb missed a lot of throws he shouldn't have. The interception was an inaccurate pass. Like, he was not nearly good enough. But it also beyond that, like, not an excusing that or explaining that, but just like, it wasn't just Caleb in that sense. Like, I think DeAndre Swift wasn't quite as, decisive and explosive. The receivers weren't making as many big plays after the catch. The offensive line wasn't blocking quite as well as it had been. And so, yes, Caleb is making a lot of problems, but it felt like everybody else was too. Whereas, like, the last couple of games, it kind of felt like everyone else had been great, and then Caleb was struggling. Now it felt like they came down a little bit down to where he is too.
Yeah, I came away from this game. I didn't think it was too much Caleb issues. I thought Ben Johnson had his worst game of the season outside of maybe Detroit. I thought he was very conservative, and yet it was conservative in the past. He was not running the ball early. They had success early, and it just, 8 carries at the half from Anangai and Swift. They each had 4, I think it was. So not enough of them. That's been their bell cow for the last few weeks. That's what's been having so much success. And Ben went away from it early. So I agree with Lauren that nobody was good enough, but I thought Ben had his worst. So to me, I put more of this on Ben Johnson and the offensive line a little bit more so than Caleb and the receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think it's just now it's like you need Caleb Williams to be the number one pick, though. Like, at some point, like, you just need him to elevate the people around him, I think, just a little bit more. Like, so I'm with you guys. Like, it's not on Caleb why the Bears lost this game. The interception is atrocious. Like, we can't ignore it, and we'll discuss it. But you need your quarterback in the game like today to step up in a big way. It just felt like was missing from the offense. But I'm with you, Adam. Like, I just think, like, going away from the run game, and when it was especially Manungai, who was starting the game off well, and even some of the the Roma Dunze stuff, where, like, he was really winning most of his one-on-one matchups on those first 2 drives, and they went away from all of it, or they couldn't execute it. So it's just it was a disappointing game, and I do feel like it's not that different than what we saw the last couple weeks in some capacity. But the Bears couldn't find a way to pull one out of the hat this week, and they dropped the ball in this one, Lauren.
It just seemed like an interesting approach where Cole Kmet is out, so you double down on extra tight end sets. Like, we saw a lot of Durham Smythe. We saw Ozzie Trapillo play, like, I think he got 7 snaps of non-offensive line tight end movement position. Even Steven Carlson, who was activated from the practice squad, like, they used him for a few snaps this game. It was a much, like, heavier personnel type of game, despite not having Kmet out there, and despite you haven't really had as much rushing success with heavier personnel this season. Swift has been better when you spread them out with receivers and you lighten up the box a little bit more, and this felt like a little bit more of a we want to try and load up and pound it with you. And they couldn't, and never really were able to consistently stick with that. And to your point about the Ben Johnson's play calling, like first couple of drives of the game, it felt like a bunch of play action and a bunch of moving pockets for Caleb, and they started getting some things going into the red zone. And then for the rest of the game, they kind of got away from a lot of that. And it was a lot of just, straight dropbacks and staying in the pocket. And it worked so well early on. I don't know why they didn't just kind of get back to that. Not that you run it all game, but if it started out well for you, you come back to it and sprinkle it in as part of the game plan, but it never really stayed that way.
Yeah, and it's kind of been that way all season in terms of the scripted stuff. We always hear about these scripts, these 15 plays that they have to come out of the gate, and they're going to use these. And it's worked really well for Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson to start these games throughout this season. And I watched Caleb Williams today, and I saw it all over Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. He, like Joe just said, he's got to be the number one pick. Well, to me, like, what was he supposed to do? What didn't he do today? A couple missed throws. I watch Josh Allen miss throws every week. I watch Patrick Mahomes miss throws every week. I think we have this expectation of not Patrick Mahomes, of Caleb Williams just to be Superman. Yet when he is Superman, we hear all these fans complaining that he doesn't just take the easy read. He doesn't just take the run. So he tries to make the throw. And then when he does make the throw, then it's so 1 week it's here, the next week it's here. Caleb can't win right now, no matter who's talking. So I think it's like, that's why today I pushed so hard that I thought today was on Ben Johnson. And I thought Theo Benedict, he better start playing better because he looks just as bad as Braxton Jones so far. So they don't have that answer at left tackle in Theo Benedict as of right now.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Like in like Caleb, to counterpoint myself here, like he made the big throw to Rome on the sidelines, and it was a tough play, but Rome could have made that play. Like even the one that got called for pass interference early in the game when Rome touched his hands again. Like it just collectively felt like a letdown performance for the offense across the board. And yeah, unfortunately, like you needed your quarterback to be Superman, and it's a lot to ask every single week, but from the play calling to the blocking, the run game, all of it, like the offense just wasn't good in this game. I mean, to have the success they had on those first two drives, I mean, they showed it at one point, halfway through the second quarter. It's like the Bears outgained the Ravens like 165 something yards to 8 yards. And then after that point, it was like 150 yards for the Ravens and 1 yard for the Bears offense. Like the script flipped after those first two drives, settling for field goals and not scoring. Like that to me is ultimately like that's where the Bears lost this game, is not being able to convert on those two drives that were good enough that you did the job, but you can't get in the end zone. That's where like the Bears need to just be better offensively.
And that's where like having an established running game at that point comes in handy, and being able to punch it in instead of, you get to the end of the game and it's third and goal from the one and you just try the quick QB sneak and can't get in. Or there was a play at the goal line later in the second half where they put 4 tight ends in the field and handed it off to Swift. I think they pulled Joe Tooney to the right and he misses, or left, he misses a block. Like they just didn't have that sort of continuity and that identity on offense of like, hey, we're going to win this battle up front here. And I do come back to the offensive line a little bit there, where I thought Tooney in particular didn't play as well as he had in previous games. And you mentioned Theo Benedict struggles. Like it just was a little bit of a step back and a coming back down to earth of like, maybe these guys were playing a little bit better than we could count on the last couple of weeks. So they weren't going to be able to sustain that at that high of a level. But yeah, it does feel like a little bit of everybody needed to be better. Colston Loveland had a couple penalties. Romadunze's got to catch some of those passes. And Caleb had 2 intentional groundings that, you sometimes, okay, it's better than taking a sack sometimes, but you got to know the situation and where you're getting the ball to. And I know there was at least one where there was some speculation that maybe a receiver wasn't where they were supposed to be on a hot route, but like still, it adds up in the 11 penalties that a bunch of those were on the offense that puts them in those longer down and distance situations. And it's some of the same mistakes we've seen earlier this season.
Yeah. And that play you're talking about was Colston Loveland, looked like an option route where you can go in or out. And, there's a bunch of people, including, I think it was Chase Daniel on Twitter, saying that hot should be Loveland going out. And well, he went in and the blitz was coming, and that's Loveland's job to read that and go out where Caleb, basically threw the ball and he wasn't there. That was the intentional grounding. The one play that I keep seeing on Twitter that everybody says, oh, he's got to make this throw, is that one free blitzer. And I can't remember if it was Kyle Hamilton or not, but Caleb had his back turned and he was supposed to turn and hit Colston Loveland, who was open by about 7 yards. Caleb's supposed to turn and make that throw, getting hit from behind. And yet he turned and threw it, I think maybe 4 or 5 yards ahead of Colston Loveland. It's just, again, I think it's the expectations of people on Twitter that drives me nuts. Like, he has to be perfect. If he's not perfect, he's not the answer. Today, I don't think he was the problem. Part of it, but there's a much bigger problem with this team than just Caleb Williams missing a couple throws today.
Yeah, and I think to what Lauren was saying too, like I think ultimately like it comes down to the offensive line. Like it's just not good enough. Like this is like you invested in this group in the offseason for the most part, like except for your left tackle position, and it just feels like it hasn't, clicked in the way that we all were hoping it was going to. And even like again, the run game stuff, we saw Darnell Wright has been moving bodies all the time in the run game. That feels like they went away from that too. Like the offensive line is all of it was just it was an ugly watch for the most part. Like, and I hate to say, like I feel like a game they should have won still because like if you score early touchdowns instead of field goals, like it just feels like the game plays out differently. But Lord, I mean the offensive line, like what do you want to see them do from here? Because I'm with Adam. Like the left tackle position is a huge problem for the Bears again.
Well, yeah, and like this is the kind of performance where if this was what you saw against top 5 defense in the NFL, where it's like, yeah, you're going to feel a little exposed sometimes. Like they're going to have more talent than your offensive line or their corners are going to be covered. And you're like, yeah, okay, we can understand that your offense isn't going to look that great against some good defenses that will make you look bad. But against a Ravens defense like this, like especially in the front seven for them, like they have not had a consistent pass rush all season. And yet it felt like every time they blitzed, somebody was getting free and getting through and quicker than Caleb was accounting for, because all of a sudden there's this unblocked rusher that he thought at least somebody would get some contact on him so I'd have a half a second to set my feet and throw, but all of a sudden he's just got to throw it away to the sideline and get the intentional grounding play. So, I mean, I don't think there's an offensive line solution sitting out there for the Bears right now. I mean, even if you wanted to go back to Braxton Jones, he's on injured reserve now, so you don't even have the fallback plan there. Ozzie Trapillo's lining up as a tight end moving around. I don't know that he's ready to step into a left tackle role that he couldn't lock down in the preseason and training camp. So you're kind of stuck with what you've got right now. And I think you just kind of got to live and die. And I guess hope that offensive line coach Dan Richard can settle these guys back in after they had been playing well for 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm open to the idea that this game was an anomaly in some ways and that you're allowed a bad game every once in a while, but you got to bounce back then next week against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think part of the problem here is, and I'm not trying to harp on Ben Johnson, but you threw the ball so much early that it doesn't allow your offensive line to kind of establish themselves like we've seen in weeks past. And early on when they were running, they had success in those first 2 drives. They had some success running the ball. Swift had a couple good carries. Monangai had like 12 yards on that one carry to the right side. And a lot of it was behind Darnell Wright, as Joe pointed out. So I do think that it's still there. The issue is like Theo Bennett, like Mike Green, the high draft pick, he hasn't played good this season. He looked like an all-pro against Theo Bennett today with the moves he was making. I also thought Monangai and Swift weren't very good in pass protection today, where we have seen them be much better this season than we've seen, at least for Swift, in the last couple years or the last year with the Bears. So, again, that's a full big issue for the Bears. It's not a Caleb issue. It's not a receivers issue. To me, the pass blocking today failed the Bears big time on offense.
Yeah, it's ultimately it's a Ryan Poles issue. Like, and it's an issue that we were all well aware of, and they tried to address, and it's not enough. And that's where I do agree again with what you were saying earlier, Adam, about Caleb. And like, while I think you need more from him, specifically, I think the interception was just so bad. But like, you're still like, he needs protection too. Like, we've seen him have success when he's had time in the pocket, and I think, Lauren, it's a great point that the free rushers just seem to be unaccounted for. And that's what I'm like, who was at fault for that? Like, is it Caleb? Because we've seen him do a really good job at times this year of checking out of things, of recognizing what's happening in front of him on the defense. But the free rushers today was just, they were just terrorizing him basically from like the start of the game, it felt like.
Yeah, I think once we got like later in the game, he did a better job of just like, okay, blitz is coming, getting rid of it a little bit more quickly and kind of recognizing, hey, I can't trust this to get properly picked up. But it took a while for I think the offense as a whole to adjust a little bit better to that. And I keep coming away with feeling like this isn't one of those games where you can just say, here's the one thing that went wrong. But it's like you got 10 different things where everybody needs to get a little bit better. And on the one hand, it's good news that there's not just like one blaring weakness that you can't fix, but it's bad news that everybody's just got to be a little bit better. So I don't know where you go from there other than just sort of like that's when I kind of come back a little bit to where Adam's at with the coaching staff, where it's like, if they're blitzing you, like it was finally the third or fourth quarter when they got the screen pass to DeAndre Swift, they went for 25 yards and they actually executed it well. But hey, if the blitz keeps coming, throw it behind them and then get blockers out in front. And it's amazing how well that can work and how they got Caleb into a little bit more of a rhythm then, because that was right after his downfield throw to Roma Dunze. But like another drive, like I think that was the only drive they actually finished with a touchdown. Now that I think about it, like when they finally adjusted better to Baltimore, they could build some momentum and punch it in.
And Caleb did make an adjustment. Now, I don't know if it was to the screenplay or just a blocking adjustment, but he did make an adjustment at the line there. And Joe, as you said, like whose fault is it? I mean, for us, I think it's just going to be on Caleb and Drew Dahlman. They're the ones in charge of making calls at the line and, calling out protections and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's got to get better. The play calling's got to get better from today. I thought Ben has done a nice job over the last couple weeks. Like last week, I thought Caleb was a big problem. They still won the game, but Caleb was a problem. This week, I can't look at this game and be like, okay, Caleb, you're the main problem. Everybody else played good. And that's where I'm looking at. And I think let's give some credit here to Baltimore. They came in with a great scheme. The Bears weren't adjusting to it. And this was a team that needed a win in the worst way. And they came out flying. Roquan Smith came out. He had a chip on his shoulder in this game, and he showed it all game long, flying all over the field. So I give some credit to Baltimore. And then the rest, as I said, Ben Johnson, the offensive line, I think take a lot of the heat today, in my opinion.
All right, let's take a break here. When we get back, let's talk about the defense. We'll get back to the offense a little bit later. Let's talk about what we saw from the defensive performance, a day in which we find out this weekend that Kyler Gordon's going on injured reserve, so that's a brutal break to this season. You're missing your 3 starting corners. So, how did they perform against Tyler Huntley? We'll get into that next year on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of the sports this season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. All right, Lauren, what'd you think of the defense today? Without Kyler, without Tyreek Stevenson, without Jalen Johnson, like you're missing your 3 corners. Like Zay Flowers is going to be good. We already know he's good, but like we all know how bad the secondary was at times when healthy, and now it's really not healthy. So what'd you make of the defense's performance in this game?
Yeah, I mean, overall, it kind of was about what we expected. I mean, they weren't going to come out and necessarily shut down the Ravens, even without Lamar Jackson. Like, I realize we may have expected a little bit better against somebody like Tyler Huntley, but like, it wasn't as though Huntley had some like great game carving, throwing these amazing passes downfield. Like, they were just open receivers behind the Bears linebackers in front of the safeties, and a lot of space when he had time in the pocket. Like, Bears pass rush struggled to consistently pressure him, so he could just kind of sit back there and kind of game manage and pick you apart a little bit. Like, wasn't these big vertical downfield throws. It was just kind of like making his job easier, even though they held Derrick Henry pretty well. Like I just feel like to me this was kind of the same Bears defense we've seen without the turnovers, and so a lot of drives just end in the red zone and in the end zone, and the Ravens score a lot of points. Like I'm willing to kind of say, hey, this wasn't too out of the question given who they were missing at cornerback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they were a huge issue today. I just thought the problem for the defense, they were giving up these long drives. I mean, that first half flew by because it was just a lot of Derrick Henry running. The Bears, moved the ball quickly and didn't really stop the clock early in this game. So while I didn't expect them, like Lauren said, to shut down the Ravens offense, I thought they did okay, but it was just too many long drives that took drives away from Caleb in the offense to get going. So that was the issue today. They gave up a lot of just kind of, it felt like easy first downs, 3rd and 7, easy pickup. And so that was the issue today. If I have one big problem with the defense, Dayo Odeyingbo, he just runs around. Like he does nothing. He's running past plays. He's not getting to plays. He's kind of backwards, running the other way. Like I just don't see what the Bears saw in him in free agency and gave him a pretty good deal. So, I mean, that's another stain to me so far on Ryan Poles that, I mean, he has just not done anything. He was okay last week, fine, but it's not like we've ever been like, he was awesome, and that's why we gave him some big money.
And I'm not here to defend Dio because I agree he has not played nearly as well as he should. I can at least understand in this game when you lose Dominic Robinson to injury and then you lose the other one, Shamar Turner. Gets hurt. So you've got Daniel Hardy as your other option at defensive end, and I think these guys ended up playing quite a few snaps, and I think more than they would prefer them to stay fresh. Odeyingbo was on the field for all but 5 snaps in this game, and he still needs to be better. But I can at least understand in this game, maybe he's a little bit gassed and not as well rested on every snap, especially as the game goes on. When you get these long drives and you can't get them off the field, it makes their job a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I think too, that's where, especially with the way they've been playing, where these guys, they do line changes like they're an NHL team, where the whole defensive line's coming off the field at one time, and then now you're being asked because of these injuries to play constantly, and you're on the field constantly. You are just making it harder for yourself. I do think, Adam, one thing you said there that I had written down as well was it just felt easy at times. While it wasn't the defense was fine. It wasn't the reason why the Bears lost this game. Because I do think the 30 points is a little deceiving in the end. But those 3rd and 7s that you mentioned, where it's okay, you need to stop here. That's where I felt like you're really missing your 3 corners. You just didn't have the people in the secondary to go out there and make a big play at the cornerback position. So I do think, injuries are a tough one because everyone has them. You don't want to make a ton of excuses for it, but just that's where when they needed to play to get off the field, they just couldn't do it in this game, and it just made it harder and harder for them throughout the entire game.
Well, to your point, early in the game, we talked about the Bears not getting those touchdowns. If they were to even, you're up 6-0, that first or that second drive, I guess it was for the Ravens, where they scored the touchdown, you had it at 2nd and 22 after another false start, goes back to 22, and boom, they pick up, I think it was 16 yards immediately, and then boom, pick up the first down, then go in to score. And it's just, that's the kind of stuff that when you are down your 3 best corners, you get them 2nd and 22. You got to get off the field, get that ball right back to your offense that has been rolling. Yeah, they didn't score touchdowns, but they were still rolling at that point, and you can't. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's 7-6, and it's kind of like, oh, damn, we feel like we've controlled this game, and we had it there, and we let it go, and then the whole game just flipped from that time on.
I don't know if this is a silver lining, but I felt like watching this game, it never felt like, oh, this cornerback is really bad and they're picking on him, right? It just felt like it didn't matter where they were throwing. They would just have space. It wasn't like, oh, Nashawn Wright had some really bad game because they were just going after him with Zay Flowers, or Nick McLeod had some bad game, or Jalen Jones. It's just all 3 of these guys are just not good enough, but it wasn't like this big, they were exposed at this one cornerback spot. It's just Hundley could sit in the pocket, take his time, and then after 3 or 4 seconds, somebody's going to be open against one of those 3 guys. But it felt like kind of like equal opportunity offending on the back end of the defense, where it's just it's just there's a talent deficiency there rather than one big thing that the Ravens schemed up to really just attack that guy.
Yeah, I know, and we'll preview the next week's game on Tuesday more. But it was hard not to watch this game. Like, man, what is Jamar Chase and like T Higgins? Like, what are they going to do against like this secondary that is just? I mean, maybe Tyreek Stevenson can be back like for you since he's not on injured reserve like Kyler and Jalen Johnson. But even then, it's like it just talent deficiency is a great way to put it. Like they just didn't have the guys, and this is like one where you can't blame Ryan Poles necessarily. You can look at where Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon do have injury history and you didn't add to the cornerback room, but missing your three guys, it's going to be tough to win in the NFL with that. And I'm with, I think they did fine in this game.
Yeah. And I think Dennis Allen early was trying to blitz, and we saw it multiply. Brisker almost got there, and they were just a split second too late. And credit to the Ravens, they were getting the ball out quick, getting it to their receivers and letting them make plays. And it wasn't like huge plays, but just picking up a first down here or there. So I thought Dennis Allen tried early to cover that up with those corners by blitzing, but it just wasn't working. They just weren't able to get to Huntley at all. And again, the defensive line, just no real pass rush threat, period. Dexter doesn't do it. Grady Jarrett's back. He made one nice play, but other than that, no real threat. So Montez Sweat had a couple nice plays again. I thought he was decent throughout the game, but there's just not that threat of a pass rush. So you have to blitz if you're Dennis Allen. Then if you don't get there, you're leaving those three corners out on an island. It's tough.
Yeah, it's kind of a pick your poison thing there because, all right, you want to load up the box a little bit more to slow down Derrick Henry and not let them just sit in the running game, but then you leave your cornerbacks one-on-one. And then, if you're going to blitz more to try and increase the pass rush, then you got the corners. But then if you want to give them safety help, then you take guys out of the box and you can't blitz as much. Like I feel for Dennis Allen being a little bit stuck there. And it's another one of those games where Montez Sweat has the big sack early in the game and then a little more quiet from there. And again, back-to-back weeks where it's like, hey, there he is. And then he's gone. And it's like you need someone somewhere to do a little bit more. And I think you come back to the Ryan Poles conversation, Joe. I mean, pass rush has been something we've been talking about for a long time. And now, they don't activate Austin Booker off of injured reserve for this week. And then all of a sudden, Dominic Robinson is hurt. Yeah, and Shamar Turner's hurt now. And so do you have to address that position? Do you have to address cornerback the longer that this goes on? I mean, Gordon goes on IR kind of late, so it wasn't like you're going to sign somebody on Saturday and play him on Sunday. So I could see why they didn't make that immediate move. But now you're down your top 5 cornerbacks from the preseason, and Jalen, Tyreek, Kyler, Terrell Smith, and then if you count Zay Frazier as your 5th cornerback, technically all 5 of those guys are down. So I agree that Poles didn't need to do anything in the offseason to account for 5 corners being injured, but we've known about 3 or 4 of those injuries for a little while this season. And eventually you got to look around and say, hey, can you do something at that spot? Because it's just not good enough.
Yeah, I'll take the fact that they have some injuries and you didn't sign some players. But when it was clear last year you had 0 pass rush and you didn't Shamar Turner and Grady Jarrett, I'm sorry, that's not what you're looking for when you're looking for, I need a pass rush dude who I know can go back and if you go into free agency, we talked in years past, Jonathan Grenard, Danielle Hunter, those type of guys were available, and they didn't go get them. They went and got more beef in the middle, and then they went and got Dio, who's not a pass rush guy. He's more of a kind of like a Montez Sweat type player where you good against the run and make a splash play every once in a while. But yeah, Ryan Poles, when it comes to the defensive line and the pass rush, he's been really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this game is ultimate, is an indictment on Ryan Poles. For really from start to finish, like all of it. Like this is a Ryan Poles loss in a lot of ways, where the things we've talked about here, your pass rush, your offensive line, like for the people that are anti-Caleb, like Caleb Williams today, this one is an indictment on Ryan Poles. I think from your roster construction to identifying your needs, addressing those needs, addressing them correctly. Because while he tried to fix the offensive line, he tried to add to the defensive line. Like at a day like today, you can see just none of it is clicking. And the moves he made aren't really paying off for you in a big way anywhere on the field. So that ultimately, to me, is where this game is just the biggest indictment of Ryan Poles. And if you have a different GM, a day like today, I wonder, maybe this is a Bears win because maybe you get one pass rusher who can make a little bit more of an impact, or one offensive lineman that can protect just a little bit better, or not have penalties, which we'll talk about in the next segment.
That's what I was going to bring up is it's not, I don't know that it's Ryan Poles' fault that they have 11 penalties for 70 plus yards. And I don't know. Is it Ryan Poles' fault that they can't finish those drives in the red zone? Like, there are playmakers in this offense. Like, I don't think the problem is not that Colston Loveland and Rome Odunze and DJ Moore and all these guys. Like, there's enough weapons here. Like, I know the offensive line is, it's a nuanced, complicated topic. But I do think, well, I agree that Poles is to blame for a lot of the stuff, especially the defensive issues. It does feel like offensively, Ben Johnson and company should have most, if not all, the tools they need to put up more than 16 points against a bad Ravens defense.
Yeah. And that's why so early in that first segment, I just, pushed the Ben Johnson angle today, because I really do think today a lot was on him, and that's scheme. That's everything. You are great at scripting your plays. After that, you've struggled, and that same trend continues. So, I can't just put it on Caleb. I can't just put it on the defense. I can't, there's a lot went wrong today. Cairo Santos, kick the ball 60 yards. I mean, if you can't in this NFL right now, go find somebody that can, because every other kicker in the league, I think, can kick the ball 60 yards. Even if they don't make it, they can get it there. Santos continues to show 55 is basically his limit. So that's another Ryan Poles decision. But again, I mean, today was, to me, more about Ben Johnson and his offensive game plan and scheme.
All right, let's take a break here, and let's talk about these penalties and stuff, because I do think it's the one thing from the Bears that it's kind of baffling that, like, from what we heard at camp to where we are today, that it's still this extreme issue. So let's get to that next year on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is here, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime in just a couple taps. I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've ever bought tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, download Gametime today. Lauren, when we first started doing these shows, it was during the training camp period, and the reports were concerning that, like, there was all these guys lined up incorrectly, penalties, it was sloppy. It's not getting any better, and this is a player problem. I don't know if this is a coaching problem, but, like, an operation, all of it. Lauren, I can't believe we're still here and we're still seeing 11 penalties and seeing guys jump off sides and have false starts all the time still at this point in the season.
Yeah, it's just weird that it's like so many different things too, right? It's not the same player every time. It's not the same penalty every time. I guess we're seeing a few repeat offenders here and there. Like Colston Loveland's had some false starts in the last couple of weeks. Like that's, and I don't know, rookie. How long does the rookie excuse last? Because I think week 8 is running out of the rookie excuse for sure. But then, this week we had the intentional groundings that we talked about a little bit earlier, and you've got, an encroachment from Andrew Billings. I know it's late in the game; he's trying to make a play, but it's just like we're really digging deep into the referee's rule book here on making sure we're learning all the different hand signals for defensive holding, legal use of hands, defensive offsides. Guys lined up. He's not lined up correctly on the punt team on a great punt that gets called back because DeMarco Jackson's too far off the line of scrimmage. Like, this is the exact attention to detail stuff that they've been harping on the whole time. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not a coaching expert by any means, but like, what else can you do other than harp on it the way that they have? Like, they're being very intentional about, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. And they're making them redo it at practice, and they made it a whole point of emphasis, and they're still doing it. Like, what else? They're trying. I don't know what else you can do to get them to not do it.
Yeah, it's rough to continue to watch these, so many false starts is what's driving me nuts, and they lead the NFL in false starts this season. Your rookie wall for Colston Loveland is running out. Like, it's time, kid. Like, I know you probably haven't gotten the amount of snaps you want in the offense and everything early on, but just stay on side. McLeod, that defensive holding was a killer as well. You had it 3rd and 4. Boom, he gets that. They got the stop. They got the pressure. They got the throw. Was not going to be completed. Even if he didn't hold, and he does, that gives them a free first down, and they go on and score points. So it's just continues to be the same thing. Ford, I don't even know Ford's first name. Lined up, 100% in the neutral zone. Like his head's past the football. You're 2 feet from the football. You just have to turn your head a little bit, and you're offsides, and they don't. So it's just those stupid little penalties. And again, this is on the coach. Part of it's on the coaching staff. I don't know if they need more penalties. Like when you do something in practice, you have to run X amount of laps or whatever it is. But something has to be done in practices to fix this. And so far, they haven't done anything because they continue to do the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, like I think it'd be one thing, like if it was only the false start penalties, like that combined with like the snapping issues of last week. Like if it was only that, but like you get a punt, that like the ball, you get it at the 1 yard line.
Yep.
You have the penalty, and then Baltimore drives down the field, gets a field goal, and makes it a 10-6 football game. And it's like, who knows? Maybe Tyler Huntley does what Caleb did later in the game in the moment and panics and throws a pick on the 18-yard line. But like you have an opportunity to take advantage, and someone's not lined up correctly. You have moments, as you pointed out, Adam, like where like you can get off the field. Guys are lined up over the ball. They're holding penalties. Like it's very undisciplined in a way that like is shocking, and just you keep hearing it, but like it's not fixing. It's not getting any better. Like of all the things that like have gone up and down as a roller coaster this year, from the offensive line to Caleb Williams, the defensive line, the penalties has just been bad. It's been a problem since week 1, basically. And we saw this week where like they've overcome it in the last couple of games, and this one they can't. And I don't know where they go from here in terms of like, besides like all of us like crossing our fingers and hoping for the best that they stop having all these penalties.
And this felt like a little bit more of a return to reality in that regard, where maybe the Saints game isn't the best example, but against a team like the Commanders, like you got away with a lot and found a way to win, and that's great, but like not necessarily the most sustainable form of success to have a bunch of penalties and like to have the opponent only punt once in a game and you still win. Like that was always a little bit precarious when you're stringing together 1-point victories in close games. Like it's hard to win tight, close, sloppy games over and over and over again. And to some extent, like, I don't want to say the Bears had this coming, because this maybe looked a little bit worse than we thought it would, but like this was all going to catch up without correction, without correcting the penalty issues, without correcting the coverage lapses downfield. Like this was a falling back down to earth of like, hey, yeah, we can't get away with this every single week, when sometimes the other team is going to play well. And that's the Ravens, to their credit. Like they took care of the ball on offense. They played better football than we've seen the last few Bears opponents play, despite their record being worse than the rest of them.
Yeah, and I think the tough part is, if you were a Bears fan, you were looking at this saying, you have the Ravens who are down. They don't have Lamar Jackson. Then you have the Bengals. Then you have the Giants. Then you have the Vikings, which what looks like is going to be J.J. McCarthy. We don't know what they'll look like. So you're thinking you got a lot of winnable games here that if you want to sneak into the playoffs, you got to win these games. And then you come out and you put out a performance like this with the 11 penalties, with the defense missing their 3 corners. And it's just, you get the break of Lamar Jackson not playing, and you still can't get the win. I think that's the most frustrating thing coming out of today.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just like to have like the opportunity to play the Baltimore Ravens and not face Lamar Jackson is such a gift. Like to where like you can go on a 5-game win streak and like be rolling for the fighting Joe Flacco's the following week, and like you got the Giants coming up who just lost Cam Scatterboot for the season, and like you've got a chance to really keep this thing rolling and moving and grooving, but instead you kind of just like lay an egg as a team and have a step back performance. The one penalty that I want to hit on just a little bit more though is the Caleb Williams, like the first intentional grounding. The second one, I think you're right. Loveland ran the wrong route. Rome's also kind of in the area. Like I just don't know if Caleb didn't get it all the way there. So I think you have 2 options. Like that one's fine. Like that's not the end of the world. The other one though, like that's where like I need Caleb Williams to stop doing that stuff. Like it's just like that. Those are plays that like at this point to me are inexcusable to be in that position where it even looked like he might have thrown the ball backwards when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, this is not like, that's not good football. Like those are the things that, like, it's okay to take the sack if you can't get out of it in that moment. And like, I don't know if that's because of what last year of where he took too many sacks and now he's always trying to make a play or what it is. But like, that's the stuff that like really, I think needs to get coached out of him. Like that play is going to kill you at some point later in the season. And it has hurt the Bears this season already.
Yeah, it felt like he was intentionally trying to throw the ball away more in this game. Like it felt like a coaching point that he was trying to get. I think in the first, I didn't see the exact number, but I remember I checked in around halftime, and I think he had like, I don't know, it was 5, 6, 7 incomplete passes, and like 3 of them were intentional throwaways by PFF's charting. Like there seemed to be an emphasis like, hey, don't take some sacks in this game, or just don't be afraid to throw it away a little bit more than you have been. But like the other concern for me there was that even when he was throwing it away, he was still taking really big hits. He got hit a lot in this game, despite not being sacked a ton. I don't remember the exact sack numbers here, but it was not very many in this game. And it just felt to me like it defeats some of the purpose. I mean, I get you're not losing the yard, so that's great. But like that one big completion to DJ Moore where he got hit and he kind of like limped up the field to get rolling again. Like I just get a little bit nervous every time he takes one of those hits. Like even when he threw that ball to the sideline, like you talked about, took a huge hit at the end. It's like, it's only slightly better than taking the sack there when he's taking the hit, because it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, he was sacked one time today. I mean, you can add in those intentional groundies as kind of sacks as well, because that's essentially what they are. But officially, he was only sacked one time for 9 yards. And that's where I come back to, and we see it week to week. It's always whatever Caleb does. A lot of people, you listen to the radio here in Chicago, you listen to ESPN, whatever, they want him to do the opposite. So then when he comes back and does the opposite, it's like, well, no, he's still got to play as Caleb. And it's like, okay, well, which way do you want him to go? Because, I mean, how many times did he bail out today? Not many at all. Not many at all. And last week we saw, he's bailing out too fast. He's bailing out too fast. He's bailing out too much. And then today he doesn't do it except for that one, and he makes a throw down the sideline that Rome dropped. It's, well, where's the Caleb we know that he moves around and he tries to make these throws? I'm not saying you guys, but if you just look at Twitter and all the Bears media, it's like, which way do you want it here? And that's the frustrating thing to me, just when it comes to the Caleb conversation, is because he does this against the Saints where he did it all the time. And it's like, whoa, just play quarterback. And then he doesn't do it. And it's like, well, where's Caleb making a play? He's got to be the number one pick. It's like, okay, guys, you got to pick one way. You can't. I understand there's that perfect spot of he's just awesome, but sometimes it takes time. I mean, Josh Allen, not to just say he's going to be Josh Allen, Josh Allen wasn't good into his second year either. I think it just, there's things to like about Caleb. There's things plenty to not like. But I think there's enough that you can say he's got talent. And if you trust Ben Johnson, like I still do, today's not the end of the world for Ben Johnson. I think these two can be really, really good together in the end.
And to your point about like him just needing to play quarterback, like that was supposed to be able to be the game plan against the Ravens. Like this is a bad Ravens defense. He should be able to, in this game, throw it away a bunch, throw the checkdowns a bunch, throw it short on third down, and let Odunze, Moore, Loveland, Swift make a play against a defense that has a ton of missed tackles, that hasn't been able to consistently cover players downfield. Like this was supposed to be a game where Caleb didn't need to be a hero, and he could just kind of be a check down Charlie game manager. Like he was supposed to be able to play like Huntley did in this game.
Yeah.
Huntley stood in a clean pocket, took his time, intermediate underneath routes, not a lot of deep stuff going for them in the offense. Even when their running game wasn't quite where they wanted to be, like it was still good enough against a bad defense on the other side. That's what Caleb was supposed to have in this game, and it felt like a combination of the Ravens defense maybe playing better than we were giving them credit for, but then also, like we talked about, and everybody else on the offense also not playing as well as they needed to, in addition to, Caleb made some mistakes here and there too.
I think my only like real concern about kind of what you were saying, Adam, with Caleb is I just feel like he's like very extreme, and like when like he course corrects something, or like he does not throwing the ball away. It does feel like
he listens to everybody. He's like, all right, guys, here it is.
Yeah. Like
I do agree with that part for
like
sure.
It just feels like there's always like a really big course correction. It's like, no, like you don't have to throw it away every time. But you also like can go out and make more plays out of the pocket. Like it just feels like everything's very, and this is where I think that's a development thing, where it's like he's hearing the coaching, and it feels like, and this goes back to I think something we saw last year with Caleb with the interceptions, where like Eberflus was like, don't throw picks. Picks are bad. and he would take the sacks because he wouldn't want to make the mistakes. And so I just feel like with Caleb, it's like it's very seems very literal and like very strict of like when it's like this is the coaching I got, I'm going to do it. And I don't know if that's a mindset thing or what it is, but there's like just we need a little more balance. I feel like.
Even for example, the long run he had at the end of the first half where he slid. Everybody's been yelling for him to slide and not take hits. But in reality, in that play, he should have got out of bounds, saved the timeout, which would have given them a better chance to at least get 3 on the board. And instead he slides. And it's like, that's where we come back to, okay, you just want him to play and just be able to get out of bounds. If you take a hit, you take a little bit of a hit, but you're helping your team get points. So that's where it's just one of those things that's frustrating. Like you said, it's an overcorrection because it felt like last week he would have darted ahead and tried to score a touchdown instead of going out of bounds. Instead, this week he slides, and it's just a major overcorrection, and it's just a frustrating point of view from all Bears fans, I think.
I think the good news there is that it's a different thing every time. It's not like he's oscillating back and forth between the same two things. It's like, okay, you got to throw it away more. Okay, or you got to take fewer sacks, so you got to throw it away more. Okay, now you're throwing away too much, and like, okay, you're not attempting enough deep shots. Well, now you're attempting too many deep shots, or now you're not sliding. Like, but we haven't seen him like go back and forth. It's like usually he'll overcorrect and then come back, and then overcorrect and then come back. But you're not. It's not like, okay, 1 week he's doing the bad thing, and then he's doing the opposite, and then back to the first, and then back to the second. Like there is a growth and a learning from the mistakes each time. It's just like next week, what's going to be the other thing that he overcorrects on? But it's usually a new thing every time, which feels like it is still growth, even if it's not complete yet.
It feels like next week is going to be the week where he comes out and throws 4 touchdowns, and we're all like, holy crap, here's our quarterback. And then we'll go back the week after against the Giants, and it'll be, okay, now he's trying way too much and throwing deep bombs or trying all these crazy throws that almost get picked and they don't. And that feels like the course we're on with Caleb Williams so far this season.
Yeah, I think some of that's to be expected. Like that's why I think the people like who want to like panic, like it's too much. I think it's fair to ask for more of Caleb Williams than what we saw in this game. Yeah. Specifically the interception, the one penalty we just covered. But like it's not, it's just on a day like today. Like you unfortunately like, you did need Superman. Like and Superman couldn't be there today for the Bears. I don't know. As you were describing it, Lauren, like the only thing I could think of was like I was like, is this what people do like when they go to like a buffet? And they've got all these great options, but then like they only eat one item and then they're full. And it's like they wasted all their money basically on just like.
And then they come back the next time and they're like, okay, I'm going to eat everything. And then they eat something else. Yes. And that's the only thing. And then it's like, oh, yeah, makes sense.
Eventually they'll find balance, but it's still. Ben Johnson keeps saying they're going to play their best football in December. So like, I think this is part of that process. So like, we're going to run out of things to calibrate by then, and then it'll all be calibrated.
Well, you still got to play some good football now. So hopefully December matters.
Yes.
While it'll matter in the development of Caleb for this season, you want December to matter in terms of winning games against good opponents because you will be facing good opponents late in the season.
All right, let's take our final break here. We'll get our final thoughts on today's game from the Bears and just what we saw overall. We'll hit on that next here on the Bears Squad Show.
The Bears Squad Show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. And now that we're in the thick of the NFL season, we can turn our attention to the NBA now back in action. There's no better place to get in on the NBA action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. Even if you want to miss the start of the game or ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, guys, one of my final thoughts on this game, just as a concern out of this, is it does go back to injuries. Like coming out of this game, like Luther Burden concussion, Turner leaves the game, the Kyler Gordon news that came out over the weekend. Like this is a team that unfortunately is just not getting healthier in any real capacity, except I guess at kicker. It basically feels like, and well, that might be a debatable decision that people will be having this week about who the kicker for the Bears should be going forward. So that to me is like one of my biggest concerns coming out of this game. Not just some of the offensive stuff. It's just that these injuries continue to pile up, and it feels like the Bears are not catching a break, and they're not really getting guys back either from injury quickly at this point, Lauren.
Yeah, and it's all been concentrated, largely concentrated at some of the same positions where it's not just one cornerback, but it's 5. And now it's not just one defensive end, but it's 3. And for a while it was, defensive tackle was stacking up there, and you're getting a lot more of Jonathan Ford and Chris Williams in at defensive tackle. And like some of that feels like just bad luck of like, yeah, you're probably going to have a certain X number of injuries, but they're usually pretty widely spread out here. And I think it speaks to Dennis Allen's job of being able to get this defense still respectable enough in these games to keep your offense in these games. And I think kind of some of the lack of injuries on offense also speaks to like why that group needs to be better. Like, yes, okay, you don't want Luther Burden to go out, and obviously Cole Kmet for his ups and downs is still a more valuable player for your offense than Durham Smythe and the other tight ends you got in there. But like largely this offensive line has been healthy left to right for almost the entire season here. You've had your receiving core. DJ Moore misses a game, but you had most of your receiving core out there for Caleb to be on the same page with. Like, this is a reasonably healthy enough offense that doesn't have an injury excuse the way the defense would have the excuse. If they've given up 35, 42 points in this game, we would all be like, yeah, they had a lot of injuries. Like that would make sense to still be at 30 and one of those touchdowns coming off of a Caleb Williams interception that put him in the red zone. Like, I think the injury speaks a lot to where each side of the ball is and how well they're coaching them right now.
Yeah, it's been a really tough season when you look at the defensive side of the ball. Luther Burden, was it confirmed that he had a concussion? I know he's evaluated for one, and I know he didn't come back in, so I'm assuming he had it.
Yeah, they ruled him out with a concussion, so
okay.
I mean, you never know how long those things take to get back.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something you hope he can come back quick from and continue to progress as a rookie. You just hope that guys can come back. The Austin Booker situation is interesting. I know sometimes it takes guys a couple weeks once they're brought in that 21-day window from IR, that it takes him some time to come back, but he's been full for now, multiple weeks, still not, brought up to the active roster. So you hope that, he's got this game left, right? This game against the Bengals. If he doesn't come back, he's out for the season, correct?
No, Tuesday is the deadline this week. It's 21.
Tuesday.
His 21-day window is Tuesday, so they've got to activate the next 8 hours as we're recording this.
Wow. Yes. So yeah, he's got to be activated. So, and if that doesn't happen, that's another thing on the front office and the coaching staff that you didn't evaluate that correctly. And it seems like he's going to be activated the way things are trending, but you were hoping to have him back a little bit earlier. And the Kyler Gordon situation, the way that was handled, and boom, he comes back, gets hurt. Now he's on IR. So it's either really, really bad luck or something's going on with the training staff that, they're just misevaluating these guys and they're not ready to come back and then they're getting injured again. So hopefully Grady Jarrett comes out of this okay. This game seemed like it, but there's just too much going on the side of the ball that I don't think you could afford the injuries, and that's the defensive side of the ball.
To your point about the weird stuff that kind of surrounds this, like we have now seen Braxton Jones and Karan Amagaji go on injured reserve, not playing in football games. Like that, yeah. I'm not here to conspiracy theory or anything, but like one offensive lineman like Karan, okay, maybe there's sort of a stashing aspect there where you're like, well, this guy's not ready to play, and okay, your knee hurts a little bit, we'll put you on. I can excuse one. But especially with the trade deadline coming up for Braxton Jones, like that's got to be real. So like they wouldn't put him on injured reserve if they didn't have to. That's for sure. So I don't know what's happening there, and I'm also concerned that they're going to look at Austin Booker coming off of the injured reserve and say, oh, yep, that's all we got to do. That solves it. Good to go there. Like that's plan A. We're just going to throw him out there, and that's our solution to the lack of a pass rush when it feels like such a kind of cop out default. Like again, I'm excited about Austin Booker, but I don't think this pass rush is an Austin Booker away from being good enough, right, even if they were completely healthy across the board. But then you add in Shamar Turner's injury and Dominic Robinson's injury, and we'll see how severe they are. Like, give me another pass rusher. Like, can you find anybody on the street? I mean, they just released Tano Passanio from the practice squad. He's just out there now, and it's just a lot of those little decisions that you're kind of looking around saying that's not the difference between winning and losing, but it's also not maximizing your roster right now.
Yeah, I think Bears fans look at Austin Booker as more of just that pure pass rusher. Like he's not like going to be this guy against the run. He's the exact opposite of basically everybody else on their defensive line. Everybody else is kind of that run stuffing. Javon Dexter a little bit supposed to get after credit, but he hasn't done it much this year. I would expect more from him, but he's played okay. But Booker is that pass rusher that, he Micah Parsons or half of Mike? No, but at least he has that ability to rush the passer, unlike anybody else, it seems, on their defensive line.
Lauren, anything else from the game that we didn't hit on that you wanted to before we wrap up?
I think those were all the big ones here as I scramble through my notes. I mean, it's always just like so many little things and head scratchers in this game, but not enough that are like, a big storyline. But whether it's little fumbles here that they end up falling on and recovering, or like they don't cover the tight end on the Wiley kind of play. Like there's just little things on this team that leave you really frustrated that individually aren't losing you the football game. But it's like, man, it just feels like, again, there's so much to clean up that there's going to still be a long way to go before we see this team play that best football in December.
I think just the little frustration things for me is, and I know he got hurt. We just talked about the concussion, but I want to see Burden get more of those Zacchaeus snaps. And Zacchaeus is fine, but I just don't think he's just not elevating Caleb. Caleb hits him. He doesn't get any more yards. He gets hit right there. He doesn't pick up first downs. And that's kind of the frustrating thing for me, that I wish they'd put DJ Moore in that spot and run those routes with DJ Moore, who's able to get away, as we saw him get that one first down when he probably shouldn't have. And it was Zacchaeus, I'm pretty sure, that didn't go block the DB that was coming right in. So that is frustrating. And then what was the other one? Oh, today, just the lack of rushing the football. I just thought Ben got away from it too fast. So that was frustrating to me today.
I'll add to the Zacchaeus thing real quick. 3 targets for Devin Duvernay. That's just a small thing, but like Duvernay gets 3 and Zacchaeus gets 7. That's 10 passes to players that are not named DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Colson Elvin, or DeAndre Swift. Like I would rather those 10 passes go to those 4 guys, and you can add Cole Kmet in there when he's healthy.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I think again, we always spend only a little bit of time on this. I just think collectively, again, though, the Bears also got outperformed on special teams today. Like it just wasn't good enough, from the penalties to the kick returns. Like both sides, like Duvernay or whoever's back there, like was Blackwell was back there at one point, I think, today. Like,
yeah, he's the one that fumbled.
Yeah, like that's not good. And then stopping kick returns has not been good. Again, like the special teams is one that it gets ignored, but again, the Bears got outplayed in a big way from that unit from top to bottom, and honestly every phase. So just not good. Another part of what was a not great game for the Bears. All right, we will be back with you, myself, Lauren, and Taylor Dahl on Tuesday night at 6:15 for our midweek Bear Squad show. And then this group will be back next weekend after the Bears and Bengals game. Make sure you check out Lauren Cox Monday through Friday, of course, right here on the Locked on Bears YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. And plus, you can find us wherever you find your audio podcasts, Apple and Spotify, and again, anywhere you can find it. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one. Peace.